citizens, we interrupt your normally scheduled programming to bring you an emergency broadcast. This broadcast has been developed to both entertain and educate you in preparedness and survival skills. Please stay tuned. Your very life may depend on it.
So, guys, welcome back to another episode of Zulu Alpha. Before we get rolling here on this episode, I just wanted to throw out an apology to everybody for having such a long stretch of time from our first episode of Zulu Alpha to this episode. We had such a massive response to that first episode that I'll be honest with you, I was ready to call it quits right there. I was ready to be done. I figured we had already peaked. We had hit the top of the mountain. There was no use ever recording another episode of Zulu Alpha. We were just going to let that little, the hula girl just keep bobbing on into the future all alone. But Myles talked me off that ledge. He slapped me around, called me some names that I can't really repeat here. Derogatory stuff that was really nasty. And finally, I gave in to his convincing when he got to the point that he threatened to come here to Austin to put me in my place. So here we go. I'm excited to be back here. Excited, especially to be here with Myles. We are going to have some fun as we laid down in that first episode. So here we go again. Myles, what have you been up to?
Well, hey, man, first I wanted to say congratulations on letting some of that beard grow back in. Looking a lot less baby-faced this week. I'm happy to see it. Eventually, you're going to catch up to this glorious Viking beard, but we'll give it some time.
Well, that was part of the delay, Myles. I had to let things grow back a little bit.
And for those that are listening, that was a big chunk of those derogatory statements were comments about his beard or lack thereof. All right. So where have I been? Well, it's been a busy couple of weeks. Work's been kicking my butt and the gym's been kicking my butt too. Getting ready for Static Monsters at the end of October. That is put on by Strongman Corporation. I think it's even going to be streamed on one of the ESPNs, which is kind of cool, but it's max axle deadlift and max log lift. I've been training really hard all year for that. It's kind of like my first competition since I blew my knee out last November. So I'm pretty excited for it. And then in the middle of that, 2 weeks ago, I ended up getting strep throat. And of course, they put me on amoxicillin. And oh, man, I don't get it. I take a probiotic every day and I eat a very clean diet and I exercise regularly and I focus on recovery. I was shitting my brains out. I think I probably have pooped off almost 18 pounds in the last 2 weeks. So this is not exactly the way I wanted to go from a men's super heavyweight to a men's heavyweight. But I guess the upside is I'm going to be entering at one weight class lighter.
See, every cloud has a silver lining, Myles. It's just your need to find it. And
exactly.
You found yours. How amazing is that? Strep throat right in the nick of time.
Oh, it's awful. And then rebounding from that's horrible. My deadlift is just fine, but my overhead press right now, last night was the first log lift in about 2 weeks where I was actually hitting numbers and felt good about it. So yeah, losing all that weight and all that sodium from diarrhea absolutely takes a lot out of you, especially when you're training really heavy for a big competition. And then of course, tonight's beverage of choice, so the whiskey of the week, that's something I kind of threw around with Joe. I'm going to at least be doing it. He may want to jump in. Some of you that are listening do know that I am a whiskey sommelier. I took a course. It's just one of those really fun things I wanted to do. But so tonight's whiskey of the week for this episode is Tullamore Dew. And as you know, they all say sometimes Tullamore do and sometimes Tullamore don't. But this is my favorite Irish whiskey. If I'm going to just be drinking an Irish whiskey on its own, it's got some nice honey notes, a little bit of nutmeg in there, not too heavy on the rye. Certainly not my favorite Irish whiskey to mix with, but just tonight I'm having it neat, and it's a nice sipping whiskey. What are you drinking tonight, Joe?
You know what? I am awful keen of just drinking a Shiner. So that's kind of my beer of choice there from Little Shiner, Texas, still family-owned brewery down there in little tiny Shiner. So that's I got a Shiner Premium, the original, that I have been enjoying. So that's my drink of the night. And for this week, man, and for the last couple weeks, just getting into a new rhythm with work, or trying to, again, kicking my butt too. I got crazy hours, never really know exactly what my schedule is going to be. I spent this afternoon, though, I was off. So I spent today working on modifying my security system around the house a little bit. I kind of got a cool setup with video cameras, and kind of added an option to view those cameras from inside the house here for anybody. So I got it set up so it's voice activated and can call out the camera and be able to check out the cameras. It's one thing for one person to have access to the cameras, or for cameras to record things and go back to check recordings. I think it really negates a huge opportunity with those cameras for everybody in your family to be a force multiplier and be able to have access to what's going on around your property at any given time. So just tweaking and modifying that today, just trying to get things just cleaned up around and getting things in order a little bit. Like I said, this is a big change for me with the new job, and a lot of different hours, longer hours. So we've been working on that. A couple weeks ago, we were out in Port Aransas, Texas. So we went down there for a little bit, now at the Mustang Island State Park, to really vibe and try to get into this beach vibe, sand, salt, and sunburn feel of what this podcast is all about. I'll be honest with you, after going to the beach and spending a few hours there, not really my favorite place. I'm just fine with the being out in the dirt and walking the trails and seeing the mountains and hills and exploring land. I guess I would be a landlubber and stay away from the beach. It brought an awful lot of pain to me, me and my family.
It's really funny. I'm not a big fan of beaches either, dude. And you're happily married. For the listeners that don't know, I'm happily divorced. But that means that I am now in the dating market, and boy, is that a fun conversation. Oh, do you prefer like the mountains or the beach? And for me, it's always the mountains or high desert. And I don't know, something about water that I can't see the bottom of freaks me out. What do they call it? Thalassophobia, I think, is like the fear of deep bodies of water. So I always have this like subconscious fear that I'm going to be that one statistical anomaly that gets bitten in half by a shark. Of course, then again, I live in Arizona, so it's not like we have beachfront property here, but I don't know. I just don't, the beach is kind of overdone for me. I grew up on the East Coast. I lived in Florida for many years, and I'm beached out, man.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. We go to the beach. My wife absolutely loves the beach. That's her jam. So she loves the beach. Earlier this year, we went on a little long weekend to Fort Worth, which that kind of thing, that's my jam. Going to the rodeo, seeing the reenactments of the gunfights there, around the little shopping areas there in the stockyards. That's my jam. But this time it was her turn, and this was actually like the third year anniversary of us moving down to Texas. And the first thing we did when we crossed the border is we went into Galveston and hung out at the beach. My kids had never been to the ocean before. So we went and hung out down there. And this was kind of just an opportunity to go back to almost the same area where we were at. It was kind of cool there in Port Aransas. They got a ferry that brings you across. So you're driving down this highway, Miles, and you come to the end. It just comes to a complete stop, and then you just wait your turn for the ferry. And the ferry it goes, grabs people from the other side, comes back to your side, you load up, and then it goes across. And with this ferries, you're waiting there for the ferry, and these gigantic freighters are coming through there, with dolphins diving in the wake of these freighters and stuff. So it was cool. It was a great experience, a really neat area. it's one of those areas where, I mean, we're so new down here. So wherever we go, we're just trying to figure things out and figure out where we like to go. Once you start going someplace for a while, you start to build those favorite places, whether it's restaurants or spots on the beach or, activities to do. But we're kind of new. So just doing a lot of exploring, checking things out. We're on the beach and my kids were swimming, and then my son wanted to go out on this long pier. So we go out on this long pier, dude, and you look out over the ocean and there's jellyfish everywhere. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. Oh, so, all right. So I have just a fascination with medical toxicology. I lecture on it pretty regularly. I'm a subject matter expert, actually on rattlesnakes here in Arizona. But I tell you what, marine envenomations are like a whole nother level of painful and creepy and horrible. Were they jellyfish or were they Portuguese man of war?
I think they're just a simple jellyfish.
Okay, I mean either way, I wouldn't want to go swimming in a school of them. But they're beautiful. They're really cool animals. I find beauty in all of God's creation, even the bitey, stingy, killy stuff. But
that's
yeah,
all there is down here.
So weird. Yeah, exactly. Arizona and Texas, the snakes want to kill you. The lizards, those that are listening that don't know, the only venomous lizard in North America is the Gila monster. And that's a relative of the Mexican beaded lizard. And they're endemic to southern Arizona. And I believe even through southern parts of Texas and New Mexico as well. Like I said, our snakes want to kill us. Our plants have spikes. Our plants want to kill us. The sun wants to kill us. It doesn't ever rain here. Do not come here, especially if you're from California. There's no water and everything wants to kill you.
Yep. Stay away. Stay very, very far away. It's dangerous land.
Dangerous. And, we have more guns than toilets, so it's just not worth it.
No, stay away. There's a great folk song that's called The Devil Made Texas. And I came across it 6 or 7 months ago. And it's this great old folk song about how, everything wants to sting you and bite you, and the ants and the scorpions and the rattlesnakes. And it's great. I'll have to dig it up and maybe play it next episode or something like that, because it's just a great song that really condenses down into even in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they were singing about how awful Texas was. So stay away, far, far away.
Absolutely. Especially if you're from California.
Yeah.
There's nothing here for you.
No.
New Mexico is lovely. So is Colorado. Colorado, Utah, wonderful places. No propes and danger noodles out there. That's all Arizona and Texas. Stay away.
Exactly. Those areas are very, very safe. So let's get to topic, Myles.
Let's do it.
In this episode, we're going to talk about EDC and talk about what we carry and kind of maybe get into some crazy stuff. But what are you carrying with you these days?
So my handgun of choice, I have two currently. One is a Glock 19. For me, I'm a pretty large frame guy. I'm about 6 foot. Currently, after diarrhea, I'm down to 239, but I usually hover around 245, 250. So I can stand to conceal a bit of a larger handgun. I really like the Glock 19 though, because it's large enough to stay in the fight with 15+1 of capacity, but it's small enough that most people can comfortably conceal it. So that's usually what I carry. I also have, and I've been slowly falling in love with this. I bought it when I moved up and when I lived in Prescott. Like the first week I lived there, I bought it because they make them there. But the Ruger LC9S is my secondary carry gun, and that's if I'm going to a wedding or if I'm going to church or somewhere where I'm like job interview or something, and I'm in nice attire, and I just want a small pistol that I can carry concealed. That's kind of my go-to. It's a very, very small handgun. It holds 8 rounds of 9mm. You carry a spare magazine, you're good to go. So for a handgun, that's usually my go-to. Knife, I like to accessorize, right? Sometimes it's a Spyderco day. Sometimes it's a CRKT day. Usually it is a CRKT M21 that I carry. I fell in love with CRKT knives when I was in the Army. And I've always carried either the M16 or the larger M21. But lately I've also been really into some Spyderco knives. I have a really cool blue Manix that I carry sometimes. So there's like everybody carries a knife and a gun. On top of that, I'm always carrying some type of medical gear. Usually that is a cat tourniquet on my belt and a TAC-FAC, a pocket trauma kit that I sell on my web store, which has gauze, gloves, a space blanket, and another tourniquet in there, and then a flashlight of some type. And again, I'm not really married to a particular brand, but I really do like Olight. They make some really nice, really small EDC lights. So that's like the bare minimum to me, is like something to put holes in bad people, something to open up boxes with or open up bad people with. So that's the gun and the knife. A flashlight, because who doesn't need a flashlight? And medical gear, because if I'm carrying stuff that can poke holes in people and people in the world can poke holes in me, I should probably be carrying something to plug up those holes. What about you? What's your EDC looking like these days?
I almost always carry a flashlight with me, and that right now, just like you, I have an Olight M1T Raider that I was selling at one point many, many moons ago and kept one for myself. It's a great little light. It does burn through battery quick, and being that it's got the CR123A type battery, it's a little hard to replace. Can't just always find one on the shelf, although they are a lot more common these days than they were, a few years ago. But that's the only thing I don't necessarily like about that flashlight. Otherwise, I mean, it's great. It's really bright, and it's got a nice little dim mode on it. So it'll light up the night for what you need to do, and you can dim it if you're just looking under the couch for a set of keys or to clean out some Cheerios or dog hair or something like that. And then when I do carry a firearm, I carry my Glock 27. I kind of got married to the 40 cal many, many moons ago, back in the late 90s, when that was all the shit, was the 40 cal, before 9mm really technologically got caught up to everything. So as the years have gone by, I've waffled back and forth. I've really wanted to get into the 9, but at the same time, it not necessarily make a lot of sense, because I started off early with the 23, and with the 27, I can use the same holsters, use the same magazines. Everything is exactly the same. Everything feels exactly the same. So it's from switching from one to the other. I got the same sights on both firearms. It makes it really simple. And for being 40 cal, it still shoots nicely. It shoots the way that you feel like it should shoot. It puts a hole in the paper where you want that hole to be. And I've never had any problems with it. And what has really kind of become a side bonus is that you can almost always still find 40 cal on the shelves, no matter what kind of scare has happened or how things have kind of gone, and shelves have emptied out of a lot of stuff. 40 cal seems to linger at least a lot longer than anything else at this point. So that's kind of a little bit of a side bonus to the 40. And then I too carry a decent sized knife. I like to carry something with at least a 4-inch blade. I was opening up something on a job site the other day, Miles, and one of actually a real Texan, somebody that's actually lived here their whole life, came up to me and he saw me opening something up with that big blade. He says, "What's with you guys and all your big knives?" And I just looked up at him and said, "We're in Texas."
I thought everything was big in Texas, right? And you're going to sit here and talk shit about my knife?
He just shook his head and laughed. And this is where we're at. We're going to live that way. We're going to keep a good-sized pig sticker with us, because you never know what you're going to need it for when everything out there seems like it's trying to kill you. So I do like to carry a decent-sized knife just on a clip in my pocket. I think that's keeps it handy, keeps it where you need it, whether you're opening up just a cardboard box or whether you, need to go to town on some really, really, really strong saran wrap. And then for the I guess what's kind of unique for me and what I like to carry too on top of all that is my notebook. Really rarely leave home without having a field notes in my back pocket. It's one of those things where I would say at this point, just as much as leaving behind my flashlight or my knife, it's one of those things where you just get down the block and you're like, shoot, I forgot my notepad. I rely on it a lot to keep notes, keep my thoughts of what's coming up for the podcast. I mean, I'll start on Mondays jotting down what I want to get done that next Saturday that I'm off. Spend a lot of time in there just writing ideas down, thoughts down. And we had a lot of conversations going on between the two of us back and forth. The conversations that went on between the derogatory names and the things you were calling me and all that kind of stuff. There was some, sort of kind of, negotiating and talking that went on between the two of us. And in those in-between areas, I was able to refer back to my notes to keep myself where I needed to be in order to get these topics taken care of. So
let's be real here, Joe. What it was is, you can tell the listeners anything you want to, but when I was bullying you, you were writing down all of your self-affirmations to make sure that you still felt loved and special.
Let me turn to page 25 here of my notebook. So there you go. That just shows how multidimensional this piece of paper combined and stapled together can be, that I was able to overcome the psychological abuse of Myles and come back stronger than ever.
And I totally forgot about that too. I often carry a notebook as well. And you're a field notes guy. I'm a write in the rain guy. Ex-Army, what do you expect? So I fell in love with those little green spiral bound notebooks. And my old NCO notebook. I mean, I carried that leader's book with me everywhere when I was in the Army. So yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that's easy to overlook, especially now that we still have another 6 months of shorts weather here in the desert. But I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm the dad that wears cargo shorts. I mean, a little notebook fits perfectly in the cargo pocket.
Yeah, and I think it can be used for a lot, whether you're writing down memories or things you got to do or things you need to pick up how to stop. I'm all for it. It's something I've really adapted into what I'm doing. At one point, I had made a pretty cool little video of how I use it for my daily journal, because it's fast. You can, in under 5 minutes, have established what you're wanting to accomplish that day, what you did accomplish the day before, so that you can kind of keep a good record of what you're doing and where you're going, so you can look back and see what you did and when you did things, and make sure you're evaluating it and continuing to move forward in the important areas in your life. So that's one thing I've really adapted to keeping with me in one form or another, just because it's so useful. I pull a notebook out of my pocket way more often than a knife or my flashlight. Let's just put it that way. It's very useful. And then one thing I got to thinking today, even as we were preparing and I was thinking about this episode, Myles, one thing that we don't even consider EDC anymore are these. And this right here is a powerful, powerful tool that we almost completely take for granted these days, and really don't even look at as the tool that we can really make it into if we want to.
So those of you that are listening and not watching this on the Patreon exclusive, Joe's talking about his cell phone. And you're absolutely right. I mean, this cell phone has everything on it. It has King James Version of the Bible. It's got my daily affirmations app. It's got, wow, it's making noises right now. Sorry about that. It's got all my, there's an app I use called Voxer. It's just a chat app, and I use that for a lot of my nutrition clients. It's kind of nice to be able to just whip this out of my pocket and have a client ask me a question about macros on something, or a fitness client sending me a video of a deadlift, and I can very quickly grab my phone, look at it, and go, oh, hey, get a little bit lower next time, engage your lats more. Next time, don't do mixed grip or you'll tear your bicep, etc. Yeah, these are incredibly useful tools right here. And you're right, Joe. We take that cell phone for granted and we don't really consider it part of our everyday carry, but it definitely is. And
Yeah,
so, yeah,
maybe,
in the notebook, I'd agree. Notebook, flashlight, probably about 50-50 for me as far as how often I reach for them.
yeah, maybe at some point we can even do an episode on apps on the phone that we think are practical, because the reality is using that for your route home to avoid traffic or accidents and to stay out of congested areas. We all, unfortunately, a couple of years ago saw the videos of people getting trapped in the middle of riots and stuff that were just trying to get home from work or trying to get to work, getting caught in the middle of places where Sherlock Holmes over here doesn't want to be. And, so weather forecast, that's another thing. It never rains here, but when it does, you want to have a little bit of a heads up that it's coming your way, because if you don't, you are going to put yourself in perhaps a predicament that you don't want to be in. Because like I say here, it's either dry and dusty or floody and muddy. There really is almost no in between.
How are the drivers over there during monsoon season? Because out here it so rarely rains. All that motor oil and grease and stuff just builds up on the road. And the first 2 or 3 bad storms we get, you can see the flooding on the street. There's that sheen of all that oil, and people suck at driving in Arizona anyway. And then you add to that water and oil and panicky drivers, and it becomes like a nightmare.
Yeah, no, it's the same here. Can turn into a really scary situation real quick, depending, especially on where you're at. There were some people in Hill Country a couple years ago, I think maybe a year and a half or something before we came down here, that were a family just hiking and got caught in a flash flood in Hill Country in a low spot. And I think the whole family might have gotten swept away and ended up getting killed. So depending on where you live and what kind of weather you could be expecting. I know I've relied on it up when I was up north too for snow and things like that to get some kind of predictions of if it's a day to leave early from work because the forecast says you should leave early from work, then leave early from work. It's not worth putting yourself into those situations, but we have the tools to help us make those decisions. Ultimately, you got to have the balls to make the right decision for yourself. But if we utilize these tools, and we can make much, much better decisions.
Yeah, I would agree entirely. And especially with the advent of newer apps like Waze that, updated in real time by actual drivers on the road can be a huge benefit. Certainly small scale, a monsoon, right? Large scale. I read that during a lot of the rioting in Portland, peaceful protesting. During the peaceful protesting in Portland, people were able to use the Waze app to peacefully navigate around the peaceful burning roadblocks.
Well, right there, that sounds like a huge benefit, to keeping yourself out of places that you don't want to be in, and to so easily have that option to take advantage of that. I mean, something we all should be paying attention to and utilizing these tools just like you would utilize, a flashlight or your Leatherman or whatever it is that you carry with you. So any crazy EDC stuff that you used to carry that you've kind of weaned off of?
Oh, man. I think that we all kind of went through the phase of, and you're kind of still in the phase. If it doesn't start with a 4, I'm not going to carry it into battle. So years and years ago, my everyday carry was a full frame, 38-pound 1911. Then I realized I valued my life and started carrying a reliable firearm. So I outgrew the giant big iron phase of everyday carry. Let's see what else. Multi-tool. I mean, kind of depending on where I am, I will still carry multi-tool. Maybe not on my person, maybe like in my pack or something. I'm sure we all have like an everyday carry, but I have a County Com bailout bag. They release it and then they pull it off the market for 2 or 3 years and then release it again with another pouch sewn onto it. So mine's like a generation 57 or generation 93. I don't know. County Com's awesome, guys. Go check it out.
Great.
But that's like my truck bag or car bag or whatever. So like that has everything in it. That's got like full size multi-tool. It's got, a full size IFAK. It's got individual first aid kit IFAK. It's got, extra batteries and MRE and a bunch of other crap that I just carry in the car. It's kind of like a get home bag. But yeah, I used to always insist on carrying a giant Gerber multi-tool. Those are probably the two big ones. I mean, we all carried the Maglite Mini Mag for years, and then now we have smaller, CR123 powered, like the Olight 2 that I carry, or I have a Streamlight that's very similar. So yeah, that's the best we had at the time. It was somewhat compact at 7 inches long and 12 ounces, but those are probably the big three. Is just an oversized, impractical, unreliable handgun, the multi-tool, and heavy flashlights. How about you?
Yeah, for a while. I mean, and I'm the same way. I have certain things on me, but not very far away, either in my vehicle or like at work. I wear my, my PPE vest, my personal protective equipment vest, and I got my safety glasses and gloves, and I carry
Your
a Leatherman
PP vest?
in there. Yeah, exactly. Carry that stuff with me. So I never really have that stuff's never that far away, but I don't need it on my person anymore. So, I mean, I used to carry like the USB with all my information on it, that, had the digital access code that, only I could have access to it, and, nice tweezers and P51 can opener and stuff like that on the keychain. So I've limited down and just kind of weaned down on that stuff. If I need to pull a sliver out, I should be able to make it over to my, get home bag or one of the bags.
Yeah, exactly.
Truck, and if I need
we all had the keychain with the Kobaton and the Uncle Mike's sliver gripper,
which are great.
tweezers.
I mean, if you need to pull a splinter out or something like that, that is the way to go. There ain't nothing that compares to it. But
it's on a full size REI carabiner, and you keep ripping through belt loops on your jeans, and eventually you realize, I don't need this shit on me. I can just keep it in my backpack in my car. And I'm the same way. Like I said, if I get a splinter in my hand, I'm pretty sure I can, cry and limp myself over to my car and pull it out. I cannot imagine any circumstance where I need immediate 24/7 access to a tweezers or a pair of pliers, or I don't know, any other ridiculous obscene. A micro. Remember the micro widgie crowbars that were all the rage, and people paracord wrap them.
Yeah.
When am I ever going to need a pry bar now? It's
exactly.
dumb.
They are, and again, they are sweet. They're awesome. Wrap them in the paracord. They're beautiful. You can get a good grip on them. I don't know what you're ever going to open. Like if you had a treasure chest the size of your cell phone, and you needed to break the lock on that little tiny baby treasure chest, they would be perfect. But otherwise,
when I was in the Army, I always had one somewhere on my plate carrier. They were really handy at ammo crates. They're I don't want to mess up a nice pocket knife blade to bust open safety wire. So I did like them for that. But again, that wasn't on my keychain or taped to my thigh. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So let us know in the comments. Let us know on Instagram and on Facebook, wherever you find us at what's your Instagram again?
_snake doctor.
Yeah. And Zulu_actual and at Prepare.Defend.Lead on Instagram. Give us a follow there and let us know what you have in your EDC. What did we miss? All right, we're out of here.
Deuces. Oh, well, that was fun.